The great hall of Orion Station was filled with light from 1,000 floating crystals. Delegates from 40 different alien species sat in their assigned places, watching the human delegation walk toward the central platform. Admiral Taiho led the group, his black uniform pressed and clean. Behind him walked Ambassador Yuna, carrying a data tablet that held humanity's final offer for peace. Taiho had spent 30 years of his life in service to Earth. He had fought in 3 border wars. He had watched good soldiers die. And for the past decade, he had watched his people give away everything in the name of peace. Today was supposed to be the end of that long road. Today, humanity would finally become full members of the Galactic Council. The alien delegates did not stand when the humans entered. They never did. Taiho had grown used to this disrespect. He told himself it would change after today. Once humans had a voice in the council, things would be different. Yuna stepped forward and bowed slightly to the assembled species. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She had spent 20 years learning alien languages and customs. She believed in diplomacy more than anyone Taiho had ever met. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Yuna began, humanity comes before you today with open hands and hopeful hearts. For 30 years, we have followed every rule you set for us. We reduced our military. We shared our technology. We gave up colonies that our people had built with their own hands. Taiho watched the alien faces as Yuna spoke. The Velhari Empress sat at the highest seat, her blue skin shimmering under the lights. She had 4 arms and a smile that showed too many sharp teeth. Taiho never trusted that smile. Today, Yuna continued, we offer our last military shipyard, the Luna Forge, where humanity built the ships that first carried us to the stars. We will close it forever. In return, we ask only for what you promised us, full membership in this council. A voice among the stars. Peace. Yuna finished speaking and stepped back. The hall was silent for a long moment. Then the Velhari Empress raised one of her 4 hands. The council will now vote, she said. Her voice was soft and musical, like wind through glass. Taiho felt his heart beating faster. This was it. 30 years of sacrifice. 30 years of bowing and scraping and giving. Finally, it would mean something. The votes appeared on screens around the hall. Taiho could not read the alien symbols, but he watched Yuna's face. He watched her confidence slowly fade. He watched her eyes grow wide. No, Yuna whispered. This is not possible. The Velhari Empress stood, her 4 arms spread wide. The vote is complete. The Galactic Council has decided. Humanity will not receive membership. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some of the alien delegates laughed. Others looked away, embarrassed. Instead, the Empress continued, humanity is hereby declared a protectorate species. Your worlds will be divided among council members for administration. Your people will serve in the households of higher species. Your ships will be dismantled, your weapons destroyed. Taiho could not move. He could not speak. He heard the words, but they did not make sense. Protectorate species. That was the term the council used for slaves. Species too weak to govern themselves. Species that existed only to serve. You cannot do this, Yuna said. Her voice shook. We had an agreement. We followed every rule. You followed our rules because you are weak, the Empress replied. You gave away your strength because you were foolish. Did you truly believe we would let humans sit among us as equals? Your kind spread too fast. You breed too quickly. You dream too big. It is safer for the galaxy if you are controlled. Taiho finally found his voice. We will not accept this. The Empress laughed. It was a cold sound. You have no choice, Admiral. Your fleet is gone. Your weapons are gone. What will you fight with? Words? Hope? She shook her head. Go home, humans. Tell your people to prepare. Council ships will arrive within 1 year to begin the transition. The alien delegates began to leave their seats. Some of them walked past the human delegation without looking. Others stared with pity or contempt. One of the smaller delegates, a furry creature from a world Taiho could not remember, stopped beside him. "I am sorry," the creature said quietly. "I voted against this. But there were not enough of us. There never are." Then it was gone, and Taiho stood alone with his people in the empty hall. Yuna had not moved. She stood staring at the platform where her dreams had just died. Taiho walked to her and put a hand on her shoulder. "Ambassador," he said softly, "we need to leave." "I believed them," Yuna said. Her voice was empty. "I believed that if we just showed them we meant no harm, they would accept us." "I was a fool." "You were not a fool," Taiho said. "You were hopeful. There is no shame in that." "Hope got us nothing," Yuna replied. "Hope made us weak." Taiho had no answer for that. He guided her toward the exit, where their shuttle waited. The other human delegates followed in silence. None of them spoke. What was there to say? As they left Orion Station, Taiho looked back through the shuttle window. The great station glowed against the darkness of space, beautiful and terrible. Inside, the council races were probably celebrating. They thought they had won. They thought humanity would simply accept their chains. Taiho turned away from the window. Something had changed inside him. The part that had hoped for peace, that had believed in cooperation, was gone. In its place was something colder, something harder. "Admiral," one of the younger officers said, "what do we do now?" Taiho was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was like ice. "Now we go home. We tell our people what happened. And then we decide what kind of species we want to be." Yuna looked up at him. "And what kind is that?" Taiho met her eyes. "The kind that survives. The kind that no one will ever betray again." The shuttle flew toward the jump point that would take them home. Behind them, Orion Station grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among millions. The Galactic Council thought they had broken humanity today. They thought they had won. They were wrong. They had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. They had given humans a reason to stop being kind. President Minji stood at the window of her office in New Geneva, watching the sun set over the mountains. She had read Admiral Taiho's report 3 times. Each time, she hoped she had misunderstood something. Each time, she found the same terrible truth. Humanity had been betrayed. The species they had trusted, the peace they had worked for, the future they had dreamed of, all of it was gone. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Madam President, the Assembly is waiting." Minji took a deep breath. She was 53 years old. She had been president for 6 years. In that time, she had faced economic crises, natural disasters, and political battles. None of that had prepared her for this. "I am coming," she said. The United Terran Assembly was the largest gathering of human leaders in history. Representatives from every colony, every nation, every settlement had been called together. They sat in rows of seats that rose toward the ceiling like steps. Thousands of faces looked down at Minji as she walked to the podium. She did not waste time with greetings or formalities. There was no point. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council voted to make humanity a protected species, Minji said. Her voice was steady, but those who knew her could hear the anger beneath. "They want to take our worlds. They want to take our children. They want to turn us into slaves." The assembly erupted in noise. Some shouted in rage. Others wept. Many sat in stunned silence. Minji raised her hand and the noise slowly died. "We gave them everything," she continued. "Our trust, our resources, our hope. We believed that if we showed them we were peaceful, they would accept us. We were wrong. They saw our kindness as weakness. They took our gifts and laughed at our dreams. She paused, looking out at the faces of her people. The question now is simple. What do we do? A voice called out from the crowd. We fight! Others took up the cry. Fight, fight, fight. Minji shook her head. With what? We gave away our weapons. We closed our shipyards. We sent our soldiers home. The council knew exactly what they were doing. They waited until we were helpless before they showed their true faces. The assembly fell silent again. The truth was painful, but it was still the truth. Then an old man stood up in the front row. His hair was white, and his face was lined with age, but his eyes were sharp. This was General Do-hyun, the commander of what remained of Earth's military forces. Madam President, Do-hyun said, may I speak? Minji nodded. Please. Do-hyun walked slowly to the podium. He moved like a man who had seen too many battles, too many losses. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. 40 years ago, I was a young soldier. I fought in the First Contact War when we met the Velhari. We lost that war, not because we were weak, but because we did not understand space combat. After that, we spent decades learning, building, preparing. Then the council came to us with offers of peace. They told us that war was unnecessary. They told us that cooperation was the way forward. And we believed them. He shook his head slowly. We believed them because we wanted to believe. We were tired of fighting. We wanted a better future for our children. So we gave up our weapons. We gave up our ships. We gave up everything that made us strong. Do-hyun turned to face the assembly. The council thinks we are finished. They think that because we have no fleet, we cannot resist. They are wrong. We still have something they do not understand. We have our minds. We have our will. And we have a plan that has been waiting in the shadows for exactly this moment. Whispers spread through the assembly. What plan? What shadows? Do-hyun continued. For the past 15 years, a small group of us have been preparing for this day. We hoped it would never come. We prayed that the council would keep their promises. But we knew deep in our hearts that they might betray us. So we prepared. He pressed a button on the podium, and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed a map of the galaxy, with human colonies marked in blue. Then new markers appeared, hidden bases, secret shipyards, storage facilities filled with supplies. We have ships, Do-hyun said. Not many, but enough. We have food, fuel, and medicine stored in locations the council does not know about. We have the plans for new technologies we never shared with anyone. The assembly stared at the hologram in amazement. But we are not going to fight, Do-hyun said. Not yet. Fighting now would be suicide. Instead, we are going to do something the council will never expect. We are going to leave. Leave? Someone shouted. Leave to where? To the outer rim, Do-hyun replied. To the regions of space that no one has explored. To the darkness beyond the council's reach. We will take our people, our technology, and our knowledge. We will disappear, and we will rebuild. President Minji stepped forward. General Do-hyun's right. We cannot win a war today, but we can survive. We can hide. And we can prepare for a future when we will never have to hide again. In the months that followed, humanity began the greatest migration in galactic history. Colony ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields emerged from their hiding places. Cargo vessels loaded with supplies flew from secret bases. Millions of humans packed their belongings and said goodbye to the worlds they had called home. Engineer Hana was responsible for the most important part of the plan. She was a young woman with dark hair and quick hands. She had designed half of the technology that humanity had shared with the council. Now she was going to destroy it. Are you sure about this? Her assistant asked as they prepared the final commands. Hana nodded. We gave them our best inventions, our medical systems, our navigation charts, our terraforming algorithms. They used our gifts to grow strong while they planned to enslave us. Now they will learn what it means to lose everything they took for granted. She pressed the button. Across the galaxy, human technology began to fail. Databases corrupted themselves. Machines stopped working. The gifts humanity had given to the Council turned to dust. Let them solve their own problems, Hana said. We are done being their servants. The Council received reports of the human exodus and laughed. Let them run, the Valhari Empress said. Let them hide in the darkness. They will starve. They will freeze. They will beg to return. She was wrong about that too. The last human ship crossed into the outer rim 6 months after the vote. Behind them, the borders were sealed. Warning beacons broadcast a simple message. Human space. Do not enter. The galaxy grew quiet. The Council waited for the humans to come crawling back. They never did. 20 years had passed since humanity disappeared into the darkness of the outer rim. In that time, the galaxy had changed in ways no one had expected. Lieutenant Junho stood on the bridge of his patrol ship, staring at his sensors. He was a young officer in the Volhari Imperial Fleet, assigned to watch the border of what everyone called the Human Exclusion Zone. It was considered the most boring assignment in the military. Nothing ever happened here. Nothing ever came out of that darkness. Any signals? His captain asked. Juuho shook his head. Nothing, sir. Same as yesterday. Same as last year. Same as always. The captain grunted and walked away. Junho kept staring at his screens. 1,000 light years of empty space stretched before him. Somewhere in that emptiness, the humans were hiding, or dying, or already dead. No one knew for certain. In the early years after the Exodus, the Council had sent scout ships into the exclusion zone. None of them returned. The Council sent warships next. They found nothing but empty planets and automated defense systems that destroyed anything that came too close. After a while, the Council stopped trying. The humans were gone. That was what mattered. But Junho sometimes wondered. He had grown up hearing stories about humans. His grandmother had worked with human doctors when she was young. She said they were kind. She said they laughed easily and worked hard and never gave up on a patient. She said the galaxy had made a terrible mistake. Junho had been taught in school that humans were dangerous, that they spread too fast and dreamed too big, that the Council had been right to control them. But late at night, when he was alone with his thoughts, he was not so sure. Far from the border, on the Council's core worlds, things were falling apart. The Valhari Empress sat in her throne room, listening to reports that grew worse every day. The medical systems that humans had designed were failing. Diseases that had been cured decades ago were returning. Millions of Valhari were sick, and no one knew how to fix the machines. We have tried everything, her chief scientist said. The human databases were encrypted with codes we cannot break. The physical components are degrading, and we do not know how to repair them. Then find humans who can fix them, the Empress demanded. We have searched, Your Majesty. Every human who remained in Council space has disappeared. Either they escaped to the exclusion zone, or they have gone into hiding so deep that we cannot find them. The Empress slammed her 4 fists against her throne. This is unacceptable. We are the most advanced species in the galaxy. The scientist lowered his head. We were the most advanced species, Your Majesty. But we relied on human technology for too long. We stopped innovating. We stopped learning. We thought we did not need to, because the humans would always be there to solve our problems. On other worlds, similar conversations were happening. The Karathi could not fly their ships because the fuel synthesis systems had stopped working. The Melvari could not feed their people because the terraforming machines had broken down. The universal translator, which allowed all species to communicate, was glitching more and more often. Diplomatic meetings turned into shouting matches when delegates could not understand each other. The Council held emergency sessions to address the crisis. They argued for months about who was to blame. They passed resolutions demanding that humans return and fix everything. They threatened to invade the exclusion zone. None of it mattered. The humans did not respond to threats. They did not respond to anything. Ambassador Sujin sat in her small home on New Terra, the first colony humanity had built in the Outer Rim. She was an old woman now, her hair white and her hands wrinkled. But her mind was still sharp. As she still received reports from the spy she had placed in Council space decades ago. Her granddaughter, a young woman named Yeren, brought her tea and sat beside her. "What do the reports say, grandmother?" Sujin smiled. It was not a kind smile. "They say the Council is falling apart. Their ships are grounded. Their people are sick. Their economies are collapsing. Is that good?" Yeren asked. "No," Sujin replied. "It is not good. Millions of innocent people are suffering because their leaders were foolish and cruel. I do not celebrate their pain." She took a sip of tea. "But I also do not pity their leaders. They had everything they needed. They had peace. They had cooperation. They had a species that wanted nothing more than to be their friends. And they threw it all away because they were afraid of what we might become." Yeren was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "What are we becoming, grandmother?" Sujin looked out the window at the city beyond. New Terra had grown in 20 years from a small settlement to a thriving metropolis. Towers reached toward the sky. Ships flew between buildings. Children played in parks filled with trees from Earth. "We are becoming what we always should have been," Sujin said. "A species that relies on no one but ourselves. A species that will never again give away our strength in exchange for empty promises." In the deepest part of the exclusion zone, far from any border patrol, something massive was being built. Shipyards stretched across entire solar systems. Factories produced weapons and armor and technology that no Council species had ever seen. Scientists worked day and night, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Admiral Taiho, now old and gray, stood on the observation deck of the largest structure humanity had ever built. It was called the First Light Station, and it was the heart of humanity's rebirth. From here, he could see hundreds of ships in various stages of construction. "How long until we are ready?" he asked. General Doan, even older but still alive, stood beside him. "Another 10 years, perhaps. Maybe less if we push harder." "No," Taiho said. "We do not push. We do this right. When we finally step out of the darkness, we will be so strong that no one will ever threaten us again." Dawn nodded. "The Council has sent another diplomatic mission. They want to negotiate." "Let them wait," Taiho replied. "We waited 30 years for them to treat us with respect. They can wait a little longer to find out what their betrayal has cost them." The galaxy continued to fall into chaos. The Council continued to argue. And in the darkness of the Outer Rim, humanity continued to grow stronger. The long silence stretched on. But silences do not last forever. Sooner or later, the humans would speak again. And when they did, the galaxy would finally understand what they had awakened. 30 years after the betrayal at Orion Station, the Galactic Council finally sent a diplomatic fleet into the human exclusion zone. They had no choice. Their civilization was dying, and only the humans could save it. The fleet consisted of 50 ships from 12 different species. At its head was the new Volhari Empress, daughter of the one who had declared humanity a protectorate species. Her mother had died 5 years ago from a disease that human doctors could have cured in minutes. The irony was not lost on her. "We are crossing the border now," her captain reported. "No hostile contacts detected." The Empress nodded. "Proceed slowly. We come in peace. Make sure they know that." The fleet moved through empty space for 3 days. They passed dead planets and silent stars. Their sensors showed nothing but darkness. Then, on the 4th day, everything changed. A single signal appeared on their screens. Then another. Then 100. Then 1,000. Ships were emerging from hiding places all around them, behind asteroids, inside gas clouds, rising from the surfaces of moons. Within minutes, the Council fleet was surrounded by 10,000 human vessels. "All ships, hold position," the Empress commanded. Her voice shook slightly. "Do not fire. I repeat, do not fire." A communication request came through. The Empress accepted it immediately. A face appeared on her screen. It was a human male, middle-aged, with a calm expression and cold eyes. He wore a military uniform covered in medals and symbols she did not recognize. "I am Commander Yumu of the United Human Fleet," the man said. "You have entered human space without permission. State your purpose." The Empress swallowed her pride. She had been taught her whole life that humans were lesser beings. Now she was surrounded by ships that could destroy her entire fleet in seconds. "We come seeking peace," she said. "And help. The Council worlds are in crisis. We need human technology to survive." Anwu's expression did not change. "You need our technology. Interesting. 30 years ago, you declared our species slaves. You plan to divide our worlds among yourselves. You called us dangerous because we dreamed too big. That was my mother's generation," the Empress said. "Things have changed." "We have changed. Have you?" Yumu asked. "Or have you simply become desperate?" The Empress had no answer for that. Anwu studied her for a long moment. Then he spoke again. "Your fleet will follow my ships. You will be taken to New Sol Station for discussions. Any attempt to flee or fight will result in your immediate destruction. Is that understood?" "It is understood," the Empress said quietly. The journey to New Sol Station took 2 weeks. During that time, the Council delegates watched through their windows as they passed. Human settlements that grew larger and more impressive with each passing day. Colonies on moons and asteroids. Mining operations that stripped entire planets of resources. Research stations that hummed with energy they could not identify. When they finally reached New Sol Station, the delegates could barely speak. The station was not a station. It was a megastructure the size of a small planet. Millions of lights glowed across its surface. Ships flew in and out of hundreds of docking bays. Defensive platforms bristled with weapons that made the Council's best technology look like children's toys. "How is this possible?" one of the delegates whispered. "They were refugees. They had nothing." "They had everything," another replied. "They had time. And apparently, they used it well." The Council delegation was escorted through the station by human guards who said nothing and showed no emotion. They walked through corridors filled with people going about their daily lives. Children ran past them, laughing. Workers carried equipment. Scientists argued about equations. It looked like any busy city. Except this city could fly through space and destroy entire fleets. They were taken to a large meeting room where 3 humans waited for them. Commander Yumu stood at attention. Beside him was a young woman in a captain's uniform. Her name tag reads Jiwoo. And sitting at the head of the table was an old man with white hair and steady eyes. "Admiral Taiho," the Empress said. She recognized him from historical records. "You were at the original summit, when my mother betrayed your people." Taiho nodded slowly. "I was. I remember that day very clearly. I remember the look on Ambassador Yuna's face when she realized that everything she had worked for meant nothing. I remember the way your mother smiled as she condemned our children to slavery. The Empress lowered her eyes. I'm sorry for what was done to you. Sorry. Taiho repeated the word like he was tasting it. An interesting choice. Your mother was never sorry. She died believing she was right. She died believing that humans were animals that needed to be controlled. I am not my mother, the Empress said. No, Taiho agreed. You are not. You are the leader of a dying civilization, come to beg help from the species your people tried to enslave. The irony is rather poetic, do you not think? Captain Jiwoo stepped forward. Perhaps we should show our guests what they came to see. Words are meaningless without context. Taiho nodded. Very well. Captain, give them the tour. For the next several hours, Jiwoo led the council delegation through New Seoul Station. She showed them the medical facilities, where human doctors were curing diseases that the council's scientists had declared incurable. She showed them the research laboratories, where new technologies were being developed every day. She showed them the schools, where children learn science and art and history. 50 million people live on this station, Jiwoo explained. It is just one of many. We have colonies throughout the outer rim now. We have explored regions of space that your maps do not even show. Finally, she brought them to the defense center. Here, massive screens showed the positions of human fleets. Throughout the exclusion zone, the council delegates stared in horror at the numbers. Thousands of warships, tens of thousands of fighters, weapons platforms, defense grids, an entire military machine that had been built in secret over 30 years. We could destroy your civilization in a matter of months, Jiwoo said calmly. Your fleets are old. Your technology is failing. Your people are weak from years of relying on others to solve their problems. The Empress felt her heart beating rapidly. Will you? Destroy us, I mean? Jiwoo looked at her with something that might have been pity. No, we will not. Why not? After everything we did to you? Because we are not you, Jiwoo replied simply. We do not enslave species that are weaker than us. We do not destroy civilizations because they might become a threat someday. We are human beings. We do not want revenge. We want to be left alone. Commander Yumu spoke next. You came here hoping to negotiate trade agreements, technology transfers, medical assistance. The answer is no. No? The Empress repeated. We will not share our technology with you. We will not trade with you. We will not help you rebuild what you have destroyed through your own arrogance. You made your choice 30 years ago. Now you must live with it. The Empress felt desperation rising in her chest. Then why did you bring us here? Why show us all of this? Admiral Taiho answered. Because we wanted you to understand. We wanted you to see exactly what you threw away when you betrayed us. We wanted you to know that every death in your civilization, every crisis, every failure is the result of your own choices. He stood up slowly, his old joints protesting. You wanted humans as your servants, Taiho said. Instead, you taught us something valuable. You taught us that kindness is not weakness, but trusting those who do not deserve trust is foolishness. You cured us of our hope. You forced us to become strong. He looked directly at the Empress. Now go home. Tell your council what you have seen. And remember this, we are no longer asking for peace. We are demanding to be left alone. If you respect that demand, we will have no conflict. If you do not, we will defend ourselves with everything we have built. The council delegation returned to their ships in silence. As they flew back toward council space, the Empress looked out her window at the human fleet that escorted them to the border. She understood now. The humans had not just survived. They had transformed themselves into something the galaxy had never seen before. And she knew, with terrible certainty, that nothing would ever be the same again. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session the day after the diplomatic fleet returned. The Great Hall of Orion Station, where humanity had been betrayed 30 years before, was now filled with fear instead of triumph. The young Velhari Empress stood before the assembled delegates and played the recordings from New Sol Station. The room fell silent as they watched images of human fleets, human weapons, human cities that stretched across artificial worlds. When the recording ended, no one spoke for a long moment. Then the shouting began. "We must attack now, before they grow stronger," a Karathi general demanded. "With what?" the Melvari delegate replied. "Our fleets cannot even reach them. Our fuel synthesis systems are broken." Then we negotiate. We offer them whatever they want. They do not want anything from us. Did you not hear what they said? They want to be left alone. The Empress raised her 4 hands for silence. It took several minutes for the hall to quiet down. "I have seen their strength with my own eyes," she said. "An attack would be suicide. We would not survive the first week of war. Then, what do you suggest?" The Karathi general asked. "That we simply accept our fate? That we let our civilizations collapse while the humans grow ever stronger?" Before the Empress could answer, a new voice spoke. It came from the communication screens around the hall. Every delegate turned to look as a face appeared on the displays. It was Admiral Taiho. Beside him stood a young woman with serious eyes and a determined expression. Her name appeared at the bottom of the screen. President Somi, United Humanity. 30 years ago, I stood in this hall, Taiho said. His voice filled the chamber, strong despite his age. I came with open hands, offering friendship. You slapped those hands away. You called us dangerous. You called us animals. You tried to turn us into slaves. He paused, letting the words sink in. Now I come with nothing to offer you at all. President Somi stepped forward. She was young, barely 40 years old, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had been preparing for this moment her entire life. I am the 3rd president of United Humanity, she said. I was born in the Outer Rim, on a world that did not exist when your council voted to enslave my species. I have never known a time when humans trusted aliens. I grew up hearing stories about the betrayal, about the Exodus, about the sacrifices our parents and grandparents made so that we could be free. She looked directly into the camera, addressing every delegate in the hall. Let me be clear about our position. We will not trade with you. We will not share our technology with you. We will not speak with you unless spoken to first. We will not attack you or seek revenge for what was done to us. But we will also not help you. Your crises are your own. Your problems are your own. We are done saving species that hate us. The Melvari delegate stood up. President Somi, please. Millions are dying on our worlds. Diseases, famines, system failures. We need your help. You need our help, Somi repeated. Yes, I understand that. But tell me, delegate, what did you do when my people needed help? When we came to you with open hands, asking only for respect, what did you do? The delegate could not answer. You voted to enslave us, Somi continued. You sat in your comfortable seats and decided that human children should serve in alien households. That human colonies should be divided like property. That human dreams should be crushed forever. She shook her head. We are not heartless. We understand that innocent people are suffering because of choices they did not make. But we cannot fix your problems. Even if we wanted to, we do not have the resources to save entire civilizations from their own failures. And honestly, we do not want to. We have learned our lesson. Every time we helped others, we were punished for it. We will not make that mistake again. Admiral Taiho spoke again. The council wanted humanity on its knees. Instead, they got humanity on its feet. You wanted servants. You created something far more dangerous, a species that no longer needs anyone else. The transmission ended. The screens went dark. The council sat in stunned silence. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed in ways no one had predicted. The council world struggled to survive. Some species adapted, learning to solve their own problems for the first time in centuries. Others collapsed entirely, their civilizations falling into chaos and war. The Volhari Empire shrank to a fraction of its former size. The Karathi scattered across dozens of smaller nations. The Universal Translator was eventually fixed by a team of scientists who spent 20 years reverse engineering the human technology. Humanity, meanwhile, flourished, free from the burden of trying to please species that would never accept them. Humans pushed deeper into the unexplored regions of the galaxy. They found worlds of incredible beauty and terrible danger. They met new species that the Council had never encountered, some friendly, some hostile, some completely beyond understanding. New colonies were founded every year. New stations were built. New technologies were developed. Human artists created works of stunning beauty. Human scientists made discoveries that changed the understanding of the universe. Human children grew up knowing that they belonged to a species that had faced extinction and emerged stronger than ever. Sometimes, Council ships approached the border of the human exclusion zone. They found only automated warning beacons broadcasting a simple message: human space. Turn back. A few ships ignored the warnings. They were never seen again. Admiral Taiho died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 93. His funeral was the largest event in human history. Billions watched as his body was sent into the heart of a star, becoming one with the light that had guided humanity through the darkness. President Somi served 3 terms before stepping down. She spent her retirement writing books about the Exodus and the early years of united humanity. Her works became required reading in every human school. Historian Heijun, who had been a young student during the Exodus, became the most famous scholar of his generation. His book, The Long Silence, was considered the definitive account of humanity's transformation from trusting allies to isolated superpower. In the final chapter, he wrote, "The Council believed they were punishing humanity by forcing us into the darkness. They never understood the truth. Humans are not afraid of the dark. We were born in it. We conquered it. We made it our home. When we emerged again, we had become something they could never control. Not because we had weapons or fleets or technology, but because we had finally understood who we were. We were the species that survived, the species that adapted, the species that never gave up. The Council wanted us to beg. We built an empire. They wanted us to serve. We became free. They wanted us to disappear. We became eternal." On the 50th anniversary of the betrayal at Orion Station, a monument was unveiled on New Sol Station. It was a simple stone pillar, engraved with words that every human child learned by heart. They wanted us on our knees. They got us on our feet. Below the inscription was a list of names. Every human who had died during the Exodus, every leader who had guided humanity through the darkness, every ordinary person who had made extraordinary sacrifices. Visitors came from across human space to see the monument. They stood in silence before the stone, reading the names, remembering the past. Then they turned and walked away, back to their lives, their families, their futures. Behind them, the stars burned bright and cold. Somewhere in that vast darkness, other species watched and wondered what humanity would do next. The humans, for their part, did not care what others thought. They had learned that lesson long ago. They looked toward the infinite horizon, toward galaxies unexplored and mysteries unsolved, and they smiled. They were human. They had survived. And they would never stop reaching for the stars.